Welcome back to One Tanya Daily, where we learn practical life lessons from Sefer Tanya. Today is a part 2, if you will, on Perek Beis of Sefer Tanya from the Alter Rebbe. And what we're going to focus on in part 2 is parental trauma. Parental trauma is not necessarily the opposite or the antithesis of childhood trauma. It is sometimes, unfortunately, it works together. However, parental trauma is severely different than childhood trauma. Why? Childhood trauma comes from sometimes bad things being done, sometimes bad situations occurring. Parental trauma is very different. And the reason why is the same way in childhood trauma, unfortunately, there is never a fix. There's never a point where you can truly heal. You can find a way to separate and move on. In parental trauma, the idea or the concept of healing is almost an impossibility. Obviously, with Hashem's help, there's always a way. But naturally, the way, at least from my perspective, I don't think it's something that is very logical or idealistic to strive for. So if you look in Perek Beis, the Rebbe starts, "V'nefesh hasheni b'Yisrael hi chelik elikam imal mamash." The second soul of a Jew is an actual piece from Hashem. And the Rebbe goes on to explain through psukim how this is and why this is. And the Rebbe explains, just like a son derives from the brain of a father, so is the neshama of every Jew. And again, going back to the concept of focusing on the words and the examples that the Rebbe uses. Later on in the Perek, the Rebbe explains, the example that a son comes from the brain of his father, even the nail of his feet, the lowest part of the body, of the physical body, came from this drop. And by being through being in the womb of the mother for 9 months. When facing parental trauma, fundamentally, why am I saying that there's no healing to it? So if you look at what the Rebbe says, and as others have explained, both in Tanya and both from other tzaddikim, they explain that a child is an actual piece of the parent. It's a piece that's connected in the form that it can never disconnect. The same way you can't cut off a hand without there being full lifetime pain. The same way you can't stub a toe without feeling tremendous pain. When a child feels pain, it pains the father. The same way you would understand that if, God forbid, someone has a tragedy and gets injured, they might be able to go to physical therapy to reignite function in a certain limb. Or if someone has, God forbid, a stroke, you can go perhaps to therapy to reignite the functionality of a certain limb, but it's never going to go back to its original stance. And so it is by parents. When a parent goes through a hardship with a child, the deep pain a parent feels in that moment is indescribable for a child to necessarily understand, or for the parent themselves to understand. Why can't a parent understand it? Because we live in a physical world where we see a separation between us and our child, a physical separation. However, it's not there. In the same way, you understand when you stub a toe that pain is visceral and real. When a child is going through a struggle, a hardship, a pain, the parent can never step away from it. However, the difference between the physical body and the connection a parent has with their child is that, let's say a child overcomes the hardship. Let's say, God forbid, a child was abused by someone and the parent is there fully immersed in the pain of the child. But the child gets the help they need, they get the love at home what they need, and they're able to come out of it and not stay stuck in the abuse, not stay stuck in that trauma. The child might be able to heal and move forward. However, the parent is always going to live with the memory that they let something slip. My child got hurt. Yes, I'm grateful that they were able to get through it. Yes, I'm grateful that they're able to heal. But something from me is still hurting because it's my toe. It's a part of my body. When a child is going through certain pains in processing, in dealing with life, quite frequently we find ourselves in a situation as parents where we're questioning, why are you doing this? Why are you going out? Why are you having a wild night? Why are you going to the tish and drinking? Why are you going to a club and drinking? Why are you doing all these crazy things? Why are you hanging out with friends that you shouldn't be friends with? Connected to our body, right? When someone wakes up in the morning and suddenly the right side, the right knee is hurting. Why are you doing that? Why is my right knee hurting? What's going on? When you have a body part that's hurting, what do? You go to a doctor. Hopefully nothing is wrong, or you figured out that you're in your 40s and that's how you wake up sometimes in the morning. However, when it comes to the next day or the day after, you're starting to wonder, when is that pain going to come back? When is that hurt going to come back? Am I going to be able to get out of bed easier the next day, or is it going to be with the same struggle? Yeah, I'm aging myself here because I can relate to those things. The same goes when it comes with children. We live with an idea that children, we raise them, we let them out of the house, we let them go. And it's confusing. I did what I had to do. Why am I getting all wrapped up in this? I did what I could. I did my best. But you wake up and your knee is hurting. Why is your knee hurting? Because you're watching your child going through something, going through a pain. And how are you experiencing that pain? It's by the child lashing out at you. The child is lashing out at you. The child grew up from, and now they're not from. The child grew up in a certain way, and they're changing the way they're living life. Some will say, accept them. Why do you have an issue? The child might even say that. Why? I'm an adult now. I can do what I want to do. That might be true. I, as a parent, might have internal work I need to do. But at the same time, don't discount your pain. Would you discount your pain if you woke up in the morning and one entire side of your body was throbbing in pain? Would you ignore that? Would you say, I have to accept it? No, you wouldn't. You would say, I need to go to a doctor, I need to check this out. Maybe if you're above 50 and you wake up at 5 and by 7 it's gone, you'll say, I'm just 50. But if that happens 3 days in a row, you're going to a doctor. The fact that we have a job as parents as always to be accepting and embracing, we also have a responsibility to ourselves and also to our children and our other children to feel the pain, to feel the hurt, to feel that we're experiencing a backlash from a child. Now, our internal work that we need to do is to understand why, how can we improve this, how can we come around to embracing the child in a way that the child feels embraced. Those are all true. But it's important for us to feel that pain, to feel that discomfort in order to get to a place of healing. But what happens when we get wrapped up in it? Pain from a parent to a child is unlike, it's in its own complete category. It's not mental health, it's not physical health, it's its own unique category. We have our own personal egos, we have our very divine mission, and then we have just the physical reality of being a parent and not wanting to see our children in pain. And when we see a child rebelling, changing, adjusting, doing things that are rebellious to us, it hurts our ego first. Second, from that, as parents, we fundamentally understand my child is doing this because something is hurting. But how do you get from point A of hurting to point B of full acceptance and embrace and providing the child with true love, true acceptance in a way that the child can heal? For that, we need to disconnect point A from point B. Point B is healing. Point A is pain. And we do that by removing our ego. How could we remove our ego? I know I'm definitely not a person that can say, sure, I'm just so perfect, I can remove my ego from something like this. I raised my child one way, I want him to be like me, and he's doing something completely different. I have a divine mission. I'm definitely not like that, and I don't think most people are. The answer is also a reframe. We need to reframe our roles as parents. Because we spend 18 years of our child, the first 18 years of our child's life, at a minimum, it's 18 years of our child's life, spending copious amounts of time, losing insane amounts of sleep, at least for the first 3 years. And then, and later, we're stressed out, we're invested, we're going to PTAs, we're checking in with the child is going through something, whether we understand it or not, we're involved in trying to understand it, and that's another level of pain. This is 18 years straight. To remove our ego, it's impossible unless we put a reframe on it. It's not my job to produce someone like me. It's my job to be a vessel for God and bring light into this world. And if my child is suffering because of something that happened, maybe I could have, maybe I couldn't have done something else, but I now have a job to do something to heal the moment. I can't look back, because looking back is, again, my ego. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What did my wife do? What did my husband do? What did the rest? That's our ego getting in the way of our divine mission of saying, how do I end up in healing now? Healing myself as a parent, because if I'm not healed, I cannot expect to help my child heal. And if my child's not healed, the pain is never going to stop. So we need to reframe our role in this whole scenario. Our role is to be a vessel to bring light into this world. Life equals light. And by being a vessel, and by reframing ourselves as vessels, not as, I'm Zach, look at my kids. Happens to be, I'm very blessed with my kids. And I'm very grateful for that. My children are amazing. And personally, I feel on a daily basis, it has very little to do with me. It has a lot more to do with my wife. But I take myself out of the equation. It's not about me. It's not about my feelings per se. At some point, I'm leaving this child in this world while I'm here, right? I'm not talking about when someone's 95 and dead. I'm talking about in this world, I'm leaving the child, I'm releasing the rope that I have, the connection of a daily basis, right? I'm letting that child go out into the wild and have their own life. How do I do that if it's about me? If I reframe it and I view my role not as me, not as my child bringing me fulfillment, not as my child bringing me respect, not as my child serving my ego in whichever way it comes out. Oh, my child is a lawyer. My child is a doctor. No, my child's a plumber, and they clean sewage lines. My child does not do that, but my child shows a different path. But my child is happy in what they do. And that is what brings light into this world. When you have someone that's able to be embraced for who they are, be embraced despite and regardless of what my own ego might tell me, that enables the child to do something that is productive for them, and in turn be happy, and as an end result, they might actually do what you want to do. Maybe not today, because they're a teenager or in their young 20s still rebelling. But if they truly have a safe harbor to go to get the love, to get the embrace, to get the acceptance, to get the validation, we're giving them a chance to actually excel in life. If we're a vessel and not the means and not the end, if we're just a vessel doing a mission, doing a job, we can heal ourselves and say, I did my best and I don't always understand why things aren't working out the way I imagined. But we're also giving ourselves a chance to get out of our own way and really do what we need to do in embracing our children. And this is part 2 of what you can see in Perek Beis and Tanya. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening.